Have you ever looked through a kaleidoscope? At every turn, you will see a new perspective of exactly the same image. And the more you look, the more you will see. Good afternoon. I'm Silvia Affo. I'm a researcher, a woman, and also a mother. And this is how my kids think I am. Probably a transgenic Pikachu, or maybe just a woman with strange things in her head. I investigate tumors and tumor microenvironment. Well, as you may know, tumors are not only composed by tumor cells, but they also include other cells, such as the famous immune cells, endothelial cells, and also the less known, by my favorites one, cancer-associated fibroblast. Well, tumor cells are the protagonists there. They are the VIP. Well, they are the VIC, the very important cells, right? We know everything about them. We know how they look like. We know how they behave like. But what we don't know is that to be influent, tumor cells need followers and supporters, because they need to expand and to grow, and will not be able. Then, with my research, I aim at investigating the tumor and tumor microenvironment complexity, and to turn these vulnerabilities into new opportunity for therapy. Wow. I believe that intuitions and great discoveries never happen by pure causality, and they are not the result of causality or accidental discoveries. I believe that they are the result of much more complex process, which includes curiosity, dedication, passion, and even failure. As Louis Pasteur said in 1854, I think, is that in the fields of observation, chance favors only the prepared mind. In science, for me, it is very clear. It means that you have to be a master in your field. You have to know everything about your discipline to have the chance to embrace challenges as opportunities, or you will not even notice them. Well, I am a curious person, and since I got to know that stupid questions do not really exist in science, I start to ask even more questions. And what has moved me during this journey in science is the curiosity. What I like to think, my love for science started when I was around 12 years old. And our science teacher brought us to a laboratory, the science, which for me was already amazing. And there, we did a great chemical reaction that day. Don't try it at home, it's very dangerous, okay? So we burned aluminium in presence of oxygen. And that thing gave rise to a sparking flame. Really, you can find in Google, but don't try. And I believe that was the big bang for my passion, for my love for science. And there, I'm a little romantic too. So I believe that this light is the light that has accompanied me during my journey in science. Well, this is not a food, wine, taste, gourmet adventure, but it's about my scientific journey. As you may guess, I'm Italian, and I studied biology in Parma, a nice city in northern Italy, not quite famous for the great science, but for the great cheese, right? I quickly moved to Barcelona for my PhD studies, where I joined the University of Barcelona in the medicine department. And there, I started to investigate the inflammation and fibrosis in alcoholic hepatitis. Quite funny, right, in Barcelona. And then, curious to know more about the intersection of liver tumors, of liver fibrosis with liver tumors, and also in my late 20s, curious to know more about the city that never sleeps, I decided to move to New York City, where I joined Columbia University for my postdoctoral studies. Well, at that time, I was sure I was in a great place and ready to do great things. And even if I had any doubt, those would be gone just walking through the campus in Fort Washington Street in Washington Heights, northern Manhattan, where the medical Columbia campus is located. You can find these advertised. Amazing things are happening here. And well, some amazing things really happened there. I gave birth to my 2 kids at that hospital on the left. And we also received an amazing bill for that, but this is another story. So when you join Columbia University, you really feel that there is a lot of expectation on you from yourself, your family, the society. Because you are there to make the difference in your research, in your career, and maybe even in your life? Well, I did work well during the first 3 years. Was amazing. I enjoyed the city. I acquired new technical skills. I was happy. New York City is an amazing city, cultural, vibrant, and also scientifically. But I realized that my research was not going in the right direction, was not so smoothly as I would have liked. And I find myself stuck. At that time, my emotional roller coaster started. Anxiety, frustration, anger, worry, fear about the present, incertitude about the future, disappointment, and impatience. Impatience for those amazing things that were not happening there. At that time, I was only able to see two ways: success or failure. And I was stuck in the wrong one, no doubt. But I was not alone there. There was an entire community, the postdoctoral fellow community, suffering the same experiences. And I'm quite an optimist person. And I started to motivate them to don't quit, to don't give up, to believe in themselves, to try to change these challenges into opportunities for their life, for their careers. And I was talking to them, but I was also talking to myself. I realized that connection time was also the first time in my life that I stopped. And I thought for the first time about priorities, about work and life balance, about myself, not only as a researcher, but also as a woman, and why not, a possible mother. That time was the time of think about things that were happening in my life. And that time would have never happened and come if I would have embraced the successful way right away, right? When people are successful, we tend to focus on their success and not about the failure, the mistakes, the struggles. And why? I don't know. As the good millennial I am, I was in Twitter a few weeks ago, and I found a tweet, quite interesting one. It was about an experienced researcher complaining about scientists sharing only their successful experiences, publications, new funding, and not really sharing the day-to-day life, failures, rejections. And why? Why? I had to look at why this was happening. And I believe that failure is bad for our ego. Our ego doesn't like failure. But we don't have to let our ego to be on charge, or we will not be able to see other people's perspectives and to embrace challenges as opportunities. When I realized that the failure path was indeed a learning process, is when I start to move again. And step by step, I converted the I won't do it into I will try to do it. Okay, how do I do it? Up to I can do it. And I did it. This is quite how I embrace the failure process as the quickest way to go and reach the success. Well, it is when I embrace the failure without fear that I felt that I was on the right path. Well, it still took kind of 3 years to get rid of New York City and this kind of emotional roller coaster. But that, you know what, that paper, that publication that seemed endless, it was published and it was great, and it was followed by several other publications. I did travel with my families, the 4th of us, through 2 continents during a pandemic, and I obtained new funding to found my new research and my new research line in Europe. Have you ever looked through a kaleidoscope? Looking at tumors, it's a lot like looking through a kaleidoscope. At every turn, it will give you a new perspective of exactly the same picture. And the more you look, the more you will understand and learn. This is how I started my interview in front of the European Research Council last summer. And this is also the reason why I'm here today, I guess. And I had 8 minutes to present my research in front of experts in the field, looking for outbreaking science. I had to look what was outbreaking. I mean, it was clear to me what I was doing, why I was doing. The scientific objective was in my head, was amazing. I want to orchestrate all this chaos in tumors and microenvironment and redirect them towards a therapeutically favorable phenotype. Does it sound good? What? Okay, I think it sounds good. But I couldn't find a way to communicate the relevance of my work. I knew that my work was important, but I knew that it will not make the difference. I will not find a cure for cancer, most likely. And I was struggling. One day I was walking in Barcelona, Eixample, looking for, just walking work. I was not looking for anything, actually. And I stopped by a toy shop, and I saw a kaleidoscope. I entered. I took the kaleidoscope, and I saw it. That was the vision of my research. I realized in that precise moment, turning the kaleidoscope, that my research, there was an animation, sorry, we lost it, but my research is only one part of the biggest picture. And it didn't need to be the entire picture. It was fine, it was good. It was such a relief, honestly. I understood that if I do great things with my research, I will help other fields to progress. It's not everything about me. Precision medicine has done giant steps forward in the last years. We cannot cure cancer yet, but we can cure specific cancer harboring specific mutations, which means in the day-to-day life, saving lives and improving patients' lifestyle, which is amazing. And this is thanks to failure and mistakes. I cannot predict or tell you where the future of cancer research will go, because it's very quick, unpredictable. And this is also fascinating to me. But what I know is that the field is moving quick because of the intersections of different disciplines, because of the different perspectives of different people. And every day, thanks to all this, we are generating new hypotheses. We are doing new mistakes, new failures, and all this opening to new opportunity and hope for therapy. Now I have a question for you. Can you guess? Have you ever looked through a kaleidoscope?